I still remember the exact moment my sister decided I wasn't welcome at her wedding. Not because she pulled me aside, not because we argued. She waited until every single person who mattered was watching. Welcome to Silent Grudge Stories, where family secrets finally come to light, and those everyone underestimated finally have a voice. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you've ever wondered what happens when the person everyone underestimated finally stops staying silent, make sure to subscribe. Because this story is only beginning. The rehearsal dinner had barely started. Crystal glasses clinked together, cameras flashed from every direction, and everyone kept talking about how Brianna had planned the perfect wedding. Every centerpiece, every flower arrangement, every tiny detail had been carefully chosen to make the night look expensive. She stood up, smiling as if she were about to make a heartfelt toast. Instead, she looked straight at me. If Clover walks into my wedding tomorrow, she paused just long enough for the room to go completely quiet. I'm leaving. A few uncomfortable laughs echoed around the room. People thought she was joking. She wasn't. I've spent 2 years planning the happiest day of my life, she continued. I'm not letting my sister ruin it. Every pair of eyes landed on me. Some confused, some curious, others already assuming I had done something unforgivable. I hadn't. Not this time. Not any other time either. My father, David Bogart, slowly placed his glass on the table. You've caused enough tension already, Clover. His voice stayed calm. That almost made it worse. This isn't about you. It's about giving Brianna one day where she doesn't have to worry. My mother, Trinity, nodded immediately. For once, just stop making everything harder. I looked around the room. Ryan Cole, my sister's fiancé, stared at his plate without saying a word. My cousins avoided eye contact. Even my aunt quietly reached for her wine instead of saying something. No one asked what I had supposedly done. No one wanted an answer. They had already chosen their version of the story. I should have defended myself. I should have reminded everyone that I had spent years cleaning up Brianna's mistakes, that I'd paid bills she never even knew existed, that I'd lied to protect her reputation more times than I could count. Instead, I simply stood up. I hope tomorrow is everything you've dreamed of. That was all I said. Brianna laughed. See, even now you're trying to make yourself look like the bigger person. More laughter. My father leaned back in his chair. I think leaving is the right decision. There wasn't a single voice telling me to stay. Not one. I picked up my purse and started walking toward the exit. Halfway across the room, my phone vibrated. Once. Then again. I ignored it. This wasn't the place. Not tonight. Outside, the evening air felt colder than it should have. The restaurant lights reflected across the windshield of my car as I unlocked the door. Only then did I finally look at my phone. 3 unread emails, all from different companies, all marked urgent payment notice. I frowned. That didn't make any sense. The messages weren't addressed to me. They were automated notifications copied to an address Brianna had listed months earlier as an emergency financial contact. An address she had forgotten to remove. I opened the first email. A payment reminder. The second. A final warning. The third. A notice explaining that failure to complete the scheduled payment within 72 hours would automatically trigger acceleration clauses across multiple outstanding vendor agreements. 72 hours. I closed my eyes for a second. Tomorrow was the wedding. 3 days after that, everything would come due. Not one bill. Not 2. Everything. I leaned back against my seat, staring through the windshield while the laughter from inside the restaurant continued as if nothing in the world could possibly go wrong. For a brief moment, I considered walking back inside. I could still tell them. I could still explain what those emails meant. I could still save Brianna from what was coming. Then I remembered the look on my father's face, the way my mother had blamed me without asking a single question, the smile on Brianna's face when she watched everyone turn against me. I started the engine and drove away. 3 days later, my parents were standing on my front porch, pounding on my door like their lives depended on it. I barely slept that night. Not because Brianna had humiliated me. That wasn't new. What kept me awake were those 3 emails. I read them over and over, hoping I'd misunderstood something. I hadn't. Every payment deadline pointed to the same date, 3 days after the wedding. Every contract contained nearly identical language. If the first scheduled payment failed, late fees would apply immediately, vendors could cancel remaining services, and several balances would become due at once. Separately, none of those clauses looked catastrophic. Together, they were a financial avalanche waiting for a single loose stone. I knew exactly how those contracts worked. Not because I had signed them, because I reviewed agreements like those almost every day at work. For the first time since leaving the restaurant, I asked myself a question I couldn't answer. Why would Brianna agree to terms like these? The answer came faster than I wanted, because she never expected to pay them herself. That had always been the pattern. Growing up, Brianna wanted the best of everything. If she wanted a new car, my parents found a way. If she wanted an expensive vacation, they borrowed money. If she quit another job after 2 weeks because it was beneath her, my mother called it protecting her peace instead of avoiding responsibility. Every bad decision disappeared before it reached her. Someone else always absorbed the consequences. Most of the time, that someone was me. When I was 24, my parents asked if they could temporarily use my savings because Brianna had fallen behind on rent. It was supposed to be a short-term loan. I never saw that money again. When Brianna maxed out 2 credit cards, decorating an apartment she couldn't afford, my father called me. "You're the responsible one," he said. "You know she'll pay you back someday." She never did. Then came the excuses. She's still finding herself. She deserves one fresh start. You're stronger than she is. Eventually, I stopped arguing. Not because they convinced me, because every conversation ended the same way. If I refused to fix Brianna's problems, I became the problem. By sunrise, I had convinced myself to stay out of it. The wedding wasn't my responsibility anymore. That decision lasted until 9:30. My phone lit up. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. "Hello. Is this Clover Bogart?" "Yes. This is Emily from Sterling Floral Design. I'm trying to reach Miss Brianna Bogart regarding tomorrow's delivery." "I think you have the wrong person." There was a brief silence. "I'm sorry," the woman replied. "Your email is listed as the secondary contact on the account." Secondary contact? Of course it was. Brianna had probably added my information months ago without even mentioning it. "We're only calling because we haven't received confirmation for Monday's scheduled payment." Monday. 3 days. Exactly like the emails. "I can't authorize anything," I answered. "I understand," Emily said politely. "Would you mind asking her to contact us today? We'd really appreciate it." "I'll let her know." The words came out automatically. The call ended. I stared at my phone for several seconds. I had just promised something I wasn't sure I intended to do. Less than an hour later, another call. This time it was the lighting company, then transportation, then the rental company handling the reception furniture. Every conversation followed the same pattern. Professional, respectful, increasingly urgent. None of them sounded angry. None of them threatened legal action. Not yet. They simply wanted confirmation that the scheduled payments would go through. By noon, I understood something that made my stomach tighten. These companies weren't talking to each other. Each one believed it was the only vendor waiting for money. No one realized they were all standing in the same line. I opened my laptop. Against my better judgment. I wasn't trying to interfere. I just needed to know whether I was imagining the scale of the problem. Using the information buried in those emails, I estimated the upcoming balances. Flowers, venue, luxury transportation, reception decor, entertainment, custom installations. Every number stacked on top of the next until the total became almost impossible to ignore. I leaned back slowly. If even one payment failed, the rest wouldn't simply be delayed. They would collapse together. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't an unknown number. It was my mother. I watched the screen until it stopped ringing. A second later, a message appeared. "Don't make tomorrow about yourself. Just stay away. and for once everything will go smoothly. I read it twice, then locked my phone. There it was again, the same belief they had carried for years, that I was the source of every conflict. Not Brianna's lies, not my parents' choices, me. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Inside my head, nothing was. I could still send one message, one warning, one screenshot, one sentence explaining exactly what was about to happen. Maybe Ryan would listen. Maybe someone would stop long enough to ask a simple question. Instead, I deleted the draft before writing the first word, because the truth was painfully simple. You can't help people who mistake every warning for an attack. And tomorrow, they were going to celebrate a perfect wedding, completely unaware that the countdown had already begun. I don't go to the wedding. I don't drive past the venue. I don't look at social media. I tell myself I've closed that chapter. For almost 3 hours, I actually believe it. Around noon, I throw myself into work, trying to lose my thoughts inside spreadsheets and client meetings. Every time my mind drifts back to Brianna, I force it somewhere else. She made her choice. My parents made theirs. I don't belong in that story anymore. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. Just after 2 o'clock, my phone vibrates. A notification from an old college friend. She doesn't know what happened at the rehearsal dinner. She simply sends a photo. "Isn't this your sister's wedding?" Against my better judgment, I open it. Brianna is standing beneath a white floral arch, smiling as if nothing in the world could ever touch her. Ryan is beside her. My parents stand proudly in the front row. Everyone looks happy. For a second, I wonder if I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should have warned them. Maybe I should have swallowed my pride one more time. Maybe. Another photo arrives. Then another. The reception. The first dance. The champagne tower. The fireworks. Everything looks flawless. Exactly the wedding Brianna always dreamed about. Exactly the wedding everyone insisted I would ruin. I lock my phone. Something inside me feels strangely empty. Not angry. Not jealous. Just finished. Late that evening, Martin Green calls. He rarely calls without a reason. "You sound tired," he says. "I am. I heard about the wedding." News always travels faster than people think. I wasn't invited anymore. I figured. There's a short silence. Then he asks the one question I wasn't expecting. "Do you still think this is your responsibility?" I don't answer. Because I don't know. Martin doesn't rush to fill the silence. He never does. Finally, he speaks again. Some people don't learn because nobody lets them experience consequences. His words stay with me long after we hang up. Not because they comfort me, because they unsettle me. 4 years, every disaster inside my family had ended the same way. Someone stepped in. Usually me. Every rescue delayed the next crisis. Every sacrifice taught Brianna the same lesson. Someone else will fix it. Around 9 that night, another message appears. This time, it's from Ryan. Only 6 words. "I wish today had gone differently." I stare at the screen. No apology. No explanation. No acknowledgement of what happened. Just regret wrapped in vague words. I put the phone face down without replying. Outside, rain begins tapping softly against the windows. Inside my apartment, everything is quiet. Too quiet. The following morning feels almost normal. I make coffee, answer emails, finish a presentation for a client. For several hours, nothing happens. By lunchtime, I almost convince myself the worst is over. Then my inbox refreshes. One new email. Same automated system. Same formatting. Different subject line. Payment declined. My chest tightens. I open it immediately. The first scheduled transfer has failed. No explanation. No confirmation of a retry. Just a notice informing the client that the balance remains outstanding. I don't need to read any further. I already know what comes next. Within minutes, another email arrives. Then another. The wording changes slightly each time. Late fee applied. Additional balance due. Contract status updated. Everything I feared begins unfolding exactly as written. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Quietly, like dominoes falling one after another. I close my laptop, walk to the kitchen, pour a glass of water. My hands aren't shaking. That's what scares me the most. I've already accepted what's happening before anyone else even realizes it's begun. Across town, Brianna is probably unpacking wedding gifts. My parents are probably telling relatives how beautiful everything was. Ryan is probably thinking about honeymoon reservations. None of them know that the celebration officially ended this morning. The first crack is invisible, but it's there, and invisible cracks are always the ones people ignore. My phone rings. Unknown number. I let it ring. It stops. 5 seconds later, another unknown number. Then another. 3 calls. Back to back. I don't answer any of them. A minute later, a voicemail notification appears. I hesitate, then press play. A calm professional voice fills the room. Good afternoon. We're trying to reach Miss Brianna Bogart regarding an urgent matter involving her payment schedule. Since this number is listed as an emergency contact, we'd appreciate a return call as soon as possible. Emergency contact. Again. I delete the voicemail. Not out of anger. Out of understanding. Because for the first time in my life, being listed as the person who could solve everything didn't mean I had to. The calls don't stop. By the middle of the afternoon, I've counted 11. Different area codes. Different companies. Different people. But every voicemail says the same thing. Please ask Ms. Brianna Bogart to contact us immediately. I don't return a single one. Not because I enjoy listening to them panic. Because none of those companies are actually looking for me. They're looking for the woman who spent 2 years pretending tomorrow would always take care of itself. Around 4 o'clock, my phone lights up again. This time, it's my father. For a moment, I simply stare at his name. Yesterday, I was the daughter who ruined everything. Today, he's calling before the sun even sets. I let it ring. Seconds later, another call. Then another. Then a text. Call me. It's important. No apology. No explanation. Just another expectation that I'll drop everything because they decided something had suddenly become important. I slide the phone across the table and continue working. 10 minutes later, my office reception desk calls upstairs. Clover. Yes. There's someone here asking for you. My stomach tightens. I didn't schedule anyone. I know. She hesitates. They said they're family. I close my laptop. Slowly, when I step into the lobby, my mother is standing near the entrance. She looks exhausted. Not emotional. Exhausted. The perfectly styled hair from the wedding weekend is already tied back carelessly. Her makeup is smudged. She keeps checking her phone every few seconds. The moment she sees me, she walks over quickly. There you are. Not, how are you? Not, can we talk? Just relief that she'd finally found the person she needed. I've been calling. I noticed. We need 5 minutes. I'm working. It can't wait. I study her face. Something is different. For the first time in years, she isn't acting like she's completely in control. What happened? She exhales sharply. There's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Families like mine always have interesting names for disasters. What kind of misunderstanding? It's complicated. No. I shake my head. It isn't. She opens her mouth, then closes it again. For several long seconds, she says nothing. Finally, the florist says we owe money. I don't answer. And now the transportation company is saying the same thing. Still nothing. They're claiming the payment wasn't processed. I wait, because I already know there is more. There are other vendors calling too. There it is. The first crack becoming impossible to hide. How many? I don't know. You don't know. Or you don't want to tell me? She looks away. That answer tells me everything. It's not just the florist. No. The lighting company. Silence. The reception hall. Another silence. The furniture rental. She slowly nods. One after another. Exactly as I knew they would. You knew this could happen. It's not a question. It's an accusation. I meet her eyes. I warned Brianna weeks ago not to sign contracts she couldn't afford. You scared her. I told her to read what she was signing. You always assume the worst. No. I answer quietly. I read the paperwork. For the first time, my mother has nothing to say. Her phone rings. She checks the screen. Ignores it. It rings again almost immediately. Different number. Then again. And again. For calls in less than a minute. Even without seeing the screen. I know exactly who they are. She notices me looking. They won't stop calling. They're supposed to. What does that mean? It means they're trying to protect their businesses. She rubs her forehead. Your father thinks they're overreacting. I almost laugh. David Bogart always believed confidence could replace reality. Until reality arrived. What exactly does Dad think is happening? He says once we explain everything, people will calm down. I stare at her. Explain what? That payments are delayed. They aren't delayed. She frowns. What? They've already failed. Those 4 words change her expression completely. Not fear. Recognition. As if, deep down, she'd already suspected it. That can't be right. It is. You don't know that. I do. How? I don't answer. Because if I explain, she'll ask the next question. How long have you known? And I don't want to tell her the truth. That I knew before the wedding even happened. She steps closer. Clover, if you've been hiding something, I haven't hidden anything. I told Brianna exactly what would happen. She said you were trying to sabotage the wedding. I smile sadly. Does this look sabotaged? Or predicted? My mother doesn't answer. Because for the first time, those 2 things no longer sound the same. At that exact moment, her phone rings again. This time, she answers. I hear almost nothing from the other side. Only fragments. Yes, I understand. Today. Her face loses what little color it still has. No, please don't do that. A long silence. Then, I'll talk to her. She slowly lowers the phone. I don't ask who it was. I already know. The venue, she whispers. They're starting legal action. Unless the balance is resolved immediately. Before I can respond, my own phone vibrates. 1 new message. From Brianna. The first message she sent me since humiliating me in front of our entire family. It contains only 5 words. You knew this would happen. I don't answer Brianna's message. I read it once. Then again. You knew this would happen. Not. Were you right? Not. Can you help us? Not even. Please. Just another accusation. As if knowing a storm was coming somehow made me responsible for the rain. I slip my phone into my pocket. I'm going back upstairs. I tell my mother. She follows me for 2 steps. Clover. I stop. If you're waiting for me to apologize because Brianna ignored every warning I gave her, you're going to be waiting a very long time. She opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. For the first time in years, she has no script. I leave without looking back. The next morning, the silence ends. Every major local news website is covering the wedding. Not because it was beautiful, because several luxury vendors have already filed payment claims. Someone leaked the story overnight. Headlines begin spreading across social media. Luxury wedding faces multiple payment disputes. Vendors claim thousands still owe days after ceremony. The comments are brutal. People speculate. Some accuse the companies of lying. Others accuse the newlyweds of staging a lifestyle they couldn't afford. No one knows the whole story. Not yet. By lunchtime, my phone vibrates again. Ryan. I hesitate, then answer. His voice barely sounds like his own. Clover. He pauses. I didn't know. I don't interrupt. I swear to you. I didn't know Brianna had delayed that many payments. I believe him. Not because I trust him. Because he sounds genuinely shocked. How much do you know now? Another long silence. Then, I think it's around 60,000. I close my eyes. No. What? It's already higher than that. He stops breathing for a second. What do you mean? The penalties don't stop after the first missed payment. They trigger the others. Another silence. Longer this time. When he finally speaks, His voice is almost a whisper. My God! Before I can answer, I hear shouting in the background. Brianna! Even through the phone, I recognize her voice immediately. What are you doing? Another shout. Then, hang up on her. Ryan lowers his voice. I have to go. The line disconnects. I stare at the blank screen. That conversation confirms what I already suspected. Ryan wasn't running the finances. He was simply signing whatever Brianna placed in front of him. Exactly the way my parents always had. An hour later, another email arrives. This one isn't automated. It's from an attorney representing one of the vendors. Attached, a formal demand letter. I don't even need to open it. The preview tells me enough. The outstanding balance has increased again. Late fees, interest, collection costs. I grab a notebook. For the first time, I start adding every number together. One invoice, then another, then another. The total climbs faster than I expect. 48,000, 57, 69, 74, then $81,000. I stop writing. The situation is moving far faster than anyone inside that family realizes. And if more contracts activate, the final number won't stop there. At exactly 6:12 p.m., someone knocks on my front door. 3 slow knocks. Not angry, not desperate. Yet, I already know who it is before I look through the peephole. David Bogart, standing perfectly still, hands in his pockets, trying to look calm, trying to look like he's still in control. I don't open the door immediately. For almost a full minute, he waits outside. Then he knocks again. Clover. His voice is softer than I've heard in years. I know you're home. Another pause. We need to talk. Need. Not want. Need. I unlock the door. Only halfway. What is it? He forces a smile. We don't have to do this out here. Then say what you came to say. His smile disappears. They're overreacting. I almost laugh. Even now, he's negotiating with reality. No. I answer quietly. They're enforcing contracts. They're trying to pressure us. They're collecting money they're owed. He exhales sharply. You always make everything sound worse. I look at him. Really look at him. The expensive watch is gone. The confidence is fading. Dark circles frame his eyes. His shirt is wrinkled. He hasn't slept. For the first time in my entire life, my father looks older than I remember. Then he says the sentence I never thought I'd hear. I don't know what to do. The words hang between us. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Almost unbelievable. Because this is the same man who once told me, people like you exist to solve problems, Clover. Now, he has finally found one he can't solve himself. Before I can answer, another car pulls into my driveway. I recognize it instantly. Brianna. She jumps out before the engine is even off. Her mascara is smeared. Her wedding ring catches the evening light as she slams the car door. She isn't crying anymore. She's furious. She points directly at me, then screams loudly enough for the entire street to hear. This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? Every curtain on the street moves. Neighbors pretend they're watering plants. Walking dogs. Checking their mail. No one is fooled. Everyone hears Brianna's voice. This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? She marches across my yard before either of our parents can stop her. I knew it. I knew you couldn't stand seeing me happy. I don't answer. She wants a fight. She wants shouting. She wants tears. Because if I lose control, she wins. Instead, I stay exactly where I am. One hand still resting on the half-open front door. She stops only a few feet away. Say something. I look at her calmly. What would you like me to say? The truth. I've been trying to tell you the truth for weeks. Her face hardens. You never wanted this wedding to happen. No. I never wanted you to sign contracts you couldn't afford. Her laugh is sharp, almost desperate. You think you're so much smarter than everyone else. No. I just read what was written. For a second, she has nothing to throw back at me. David steps between us. Enough. His voice is firm, but it doesn't carry the authority it used to. Not anymore. Brianna, yelling isn't fixing anything. She turns toward him so quickly that even he seems surprised. So now you're taking her side? No. I'm trying to solve this. There wouldn't be anything to solve if she had warned us. I finally speak. I did. Silence. Not dramatic. Heavy. David slowly looks at me. What do you mean? I warned her before the contracts were signed. Brianna immediately shakes her head. She's lying. I sent you 3 different messages. You were trying to scare me. I was trying to stop this. Trinity steps forward. Clover! What messages? I unlock my phone. Not because I plan to prove anything. Because I'm tired. Tired of defending myself with words that disappear the moment someone decides not to believe them. I open the conversation. No scrolling. No searching. The messages are still there. The first one. Please have someone review those vendor agreements before you sign them. Brianna's reply. Stop acting like my mother. The second. Several of those payment schedules overlap. That's dangerous. Her answer. Everything is under control. The third. If one payment fails, several contracts could accelerate at the same time. Please don't ignore this. Her final response. Mind your own business. No one speaks. The only sound comes from cars passing at the end of the street. David reads every line, then reads them again. His shoulders drop almost imperceptibly. He looks at Brianna. When were these sent? She doesn't answer. Brianna! Before the wedding. His eyes widen. You never told us. I didn't think. No. He cuts her off. You told us Clover was trying to sabotage everything. I thought she was. You never showed us these messages. She takes a step backward. For the first time since arriving, she looks uncertain. Only for a second. Then the anger returns. So what? She throws her hands into the air. She still knew this would happen. Yes. I answer quietly. I knew. And you did nothing. You made it very clear you wanted me out of your life. She laughs bitterly. So you punished me? No. I hold her gaze. You experience the consequences of your own decisions. Her breathing becomes uneven. You're twisting everything. No. You just don't like the version where you're responsible. Ryan's car pulls into the driveway. He gets out slowly. He looks exhausted. His tie is gone. The sleeves of his dress shirt are rolled up. He doesn't even acknowledge me at first. He walks straight toward David. We need to talk. David looks confused. What now? Ryan hands him several folded documents. I went through every contract. David unfolds the first page. Then another. Then another. Each one contains handwritten notes, payment dates, late fees, penalty percentages, cross-default clauses. Ryan speaks, so quietly that everyone has to lean in to hear him. There were 7 different payment schedules. David looks up. 7. Ryan nods. And Brianna told me the money was already set aside. Complete silence. Brianna's face drains of color. Ryan. Don't. He doesn't even look at her. I believed you. Another pause. I signed because I believed you. David slowly turns toward his daughter. The money wasn't there? She opens her mouth. Nothing comes out. Trinity whispers the question no one else wants to ask. Then, where did it go? Brianna begins, shaking her head. It's not that simple. Ryan finally looks at her. No. His voice cracks. It actually is. Another long silence. Then he says the sentence that changes everything. You spent it before the wedding. No one moves. No one breathes. Brianna starts crying. Real tears this time. Not because she's sorry. Because she finally realizes the truth is no longer something she can control. At that exact moment, David's phone rings. He answers automatically, listens for less than 15 seconds, then lowers it slowly. His face has turned completely white. I don't need to ask. He tells us anyway. The attorneys recalculated everything. He swallows hard. The balance isn't $81,000 anymore. He looks directly at me. It's $94,000. $94,000. The number hangs in the air long after my father lowers his phone. No one argues. No one insists the vendors are exaggerating anymore. Reality has finally done what years of warnings never could. It has silenced everyone. David doesn't look angry. He looks lost. His eyes move from the paperwork in Ryan's hands to Brianna, as if he's searching for an explanation that can still make sense of everything. He doesn't find one. Ryan slowly hands him another folder. Unlike the others, this one isn't filled with contracts. It's filled with bank statements. "I asked for access this morning," he says quietly. "I thought I was missing something." He wasn't. Every page tells the same story. Luxury purchases, designer stores, private shopping appointments, deposits for custom decorations, expensive jewelry, a honeymoon upgrade, countless transactions spread across months, each one small enough to avoid suspicion, but together large enough to drain nearly every dollar that should have covered the wedding. The silence becomes heavier with every page David turns. Trinity steps beside him. She begins reading over his shoulder. At first she frowns. Then she freezes. One purchase catches her attention. She reads it twice, then a third time. Her lips part slightly. "This." She looks at Brianna. "This bracelet alone was $23,000. Brianna doesn't deny it. She doesn't even try. Another page. Another luxury purchase. Another transfer. Then another. Each statement destroys the version of reality Brianna had carefully built for years. David finally understands something that changes the entire situation. The missing money wasn't lost. It wasn't stolen. It wasn't delayed. It had been spent long before the wedding ever happened. For years, he believed he was protecting his youngest daughter from life's hardships. Now he realizes he had simply been financing them. Ryan quietly removes his wedding ring. No dramatic speech. No shouting. He simply places it on the hood of his car. "I asked you one question before we got married." His voice is calm. So calm that it hurts more than anger. He looks directly at Brianna. "I asked whether we could actually afford this wedding." Brianna lowers her eyes. "You said yes." Another silence. "I believed you." He turns away. Not toward me. Not toward David. Toward the street. Toward anywhere that isn't standing beside her. "I don't know who I married." Those words hit harder than any accusation. Brianna finally breaks. She rushes toward him, grabbing his arm before he reaches the sidewalk. He gently pulls away. Not violently. Not dramatically. Just enough to show that something between them has already ended. Watching him leave, I suddenly understand why this moment feels so different from every other family crisis. No one is waiting for me to fix it anymore. The damage has become too visible, too expensive, too public. The truth no longer depends on my opinion. It exists on paper, on bank statements, on unpaid invoices, on legal notices. Even my parents can't argue with numbers. David slowly folds the documents. For the first time in my life, he looks embarrassed to stand in front of me. I should have listened. The words are almost impossible to hear. Not because he whispers them. Because I spent my entire childhood believing I never would. I don't answer. Some apologies arrive too late to become healing. They simply become facts. Trinity steps closer. Unlike David, she isn't ready to accept what happened. Not completely. She is still searching for a solution. Any solution. Her eyes stop on my driveway, then on my house, then on me. I recognize that look immediately. I've seen it my entire life. She's calculating, looking for the one person who can absorb the impact. "Clover." Her voice softens in a way I haven't heard since I was a little girl. "You have excellent credit." I close my eyes for a brief second. Of course. Not an apology. Not remorse. A solution. Me. "If you took out a temporary loan." She keeps talking. "We could pay the vendors immediately." David slowly turns toward her. She continues before either of us can respond. "The lawsuits would stop. The interest would stop growing. We'd pay you back." The last sentence almost makes me smile. Not because it's funny. Because I've heard it before. When Brianna's rent disappeared. When her credit cards had to be covered. When another temporary emergency somehow became my permanent responsibility. The promise never changes. Only the amount. I look at both of them. The people who spent years teaching me that Brianna deserved endless second chances while I was expected to carry every burden without complaint. Now, they're asking me to risk my future to protect the daughter they never stopped choosing. David doesn't interrupt Trinity. He doesn't tell her she's wrong. His silence says enough. He wants the same thing. They've simply run out of ways to demand it. So now, they're asking. I take one slow breath, then another. The answer forms in my mind before I ever speak. And judging by the hope beginning to return to their faces, they still believe they know exactly what I'm about to say. For years, my answer had always been the same. I'd find a way. I'd work overtime, delay my own plans, drain my savings, take another burden that wasn't mine. Somehow, I always became the bridge between my family's bad decisions and the consequences waiting on the other side. Looking at my parents now, I realize something. They aren't standing on my porch because they've finally understood me. They're standing here because they've run out of everyone else. The difference matters. David slowly steps forward. His shoulders seem smaller than they did only a week ago. His voice carries none of the certainty that once made every conversation feel like an order. I know we've asked too much of you. I wait. He struggles to continue. I know I have. Those words would have meant everything to the younger version of me. The little girl who kept believing that if she worked harder, was kinder, was quieter, her parents would finally choose her. But that little girl no longer lives here. The woman standing in front of them has learned something far more valuable. Love that only appears during emergencies isn't love, it's dependence. Trinity reaches for my hand. I gently step back before she can touch me. Her expression falls immediately. Clover, we'll pay every dollar back. The sentence feels almost rehearsed, as if repeating it often enough could erase every time it had already been broken. I don't remind her about the rent, or the credit cards, or the countless temporary loans that quietly became permanent gifts to Brianna. I don't have to. I don't have to. We all remember. Ryan finally speaks again. His voice is tired. I've already contacted my attorney. Brianna lifts her head so quickly that even David looks startled. What? I'm separating my finances. Her face drains of color. You can't be serious. He doesn't answer. Silence says enough. The marriage has lasted 4 days. Trust has lasted even less. Brianna looks around desperately. First at Ryan, then at our parents. Finally, at me. For the first time since we were children, there's no arrogance left in her eyes. Only fear. Real fear. Not fear of losing money. Fear of living with consequences she can't hand to someone else. You can fix this. Her voice is barely above a whisper. You always do. The street is completely silent. Even the neighbors pretending not to watch have stopped moving. Everyone is waiting. I think back to the rehearsal dinner, to the laughter, to the smiles, to the moment Brianna looked directly at me and announced that I'd ruin her wedding simply by showing up. She believed I brought disaster wherever I went. The truth is much simpler. I was the person who kept cleaning it up. Until now. I meet her eyes one last time. No. One word. Nothing more. The silence that follows is heavier than any argument. Trinity begins crying. Not loudly. Quietly. The kind of crying that comes when hope disappears. David lowers his head. He doesn't try to convince me again. Deep down, he already knows. This isn't punishment. This is the first consequence our family has ever been forced to face without hiding behind me. I take one step backward, then another. I didn't create this debt. I keep my voice calm. I warned you before it existed. Another step. You chose not to listen. Another. I'm not sacrificing my future to protect choices that were never mine. No one follows me. No one argues. Because there is nothing left to argue. I quietly close the front door. For a long moment, I simply stand there. The house is silent. The shouting is gone. The guilt is gone. For the first time in longer than I can remember, the responsibility is gone too. The lawsuits continue. Several vendors negotiate reduced settlements with Ryan after he cooperates and provides every financial record he has. Others pursue Brianna directly. Luxury items begin disappearing one by one. The designer jewelry, the limited edition handbags, the custom furniture she insisted she deserved. Most of them are sold before the year ends. Not to build a new life, simply to pay for the old lies. Ryan files for an annulment before their first anniversary ever has the chance to exist. He tells the court the marriage was built on financial deception. He isn't trying to punish Brianna. He's trying to escape a life he never agreed to. David retires earlier than planned. Not because he wants to, because legal fees and settlements consume the savings he spent decades building. For the first time, he has to say no to Brianna. Trinity continues calling me for several months. The conversations slowly become less frequent, not because everything is forgiven, because she finally understands something she never accepted before. Every call that begins with another request ends the same way. Eventually, the requests stop. Months later, Martin Green visits my office. He smiles as he notices a framed photograph on my desk. Not of my family, of a mountain trail I'd completed alone. "You look lighter," he says. I smile. "I am." He nods once. "I guess they finally learned." I look out the window for a moment before answering. No, they finally had to. And as I return to work, I realize the greatest revenge was never watching my family lose $94,000. It was watching them discover that the person they underestimated for years was the only reason they had survived themselves for so long.